Hey everyone, welcome to our Hackathons 101 workshop and how to maximize your hackathon experience. So for starters, I am Mansi. I am a coach at Major League Hacking and an avocado toast enthusiast. So I've been involved in hackathons for as long as I can remember, and I've had a lot of experience moving from a first-time hacker, so I know exactly what that's like, to eventually building up my skills and becoming a returning hacker where I would go to hackathons every day, every weekend, pretty much back to back, and then eventually becoming a mentor and then organizer and then judge, and then now a coach at Major League Hacking, where I have the opportunity to host and manage hackathons globally and host events like this. So it's definitely a great idea to start getting involved in the hackathon community. I know I've made some of my best friends through it, so definitely recommend. So let's start off with, what is a hackathon? You're probably wondering, who is this person? What are they talking about? Am I breaking into computers? And I will tell you, no. I mean, as fun as it sounds, we are not breaking into computers. So hackathons are 48 hours or just sometimes 36-hour weekend-long events where you have the opportunity to collaborate with students across the world and build projects with your design skills or computer science skills, depending on what you want to do. And you get to present it to a panel of judges and hopefully win some prizes. So definitely there's a lot of opportunities to get involved. One of them being Major League Hacking, which is a very large organization with hundreds and thousands of hackers just like you. And they host weekend-long events almost every weekend and partner with collegiate hackathons across the world. So definitely recommend getting involved in Major League Hacking. And if you're in this call, you've probably heard of Major League Hacking, which is pretty awesome because it is an awesome global network of hackers. And then we also have Tech Together, which was recently acquired by MLH, and they host femme and non-binary focused hackathons with a lot of first-time hackers from high school all the way collegiate, masters. So highly recommend. I know I've attended many Tech Together hackathons in my days, so definitely recommend, especially if you're just getting started with coding or even just hackathons in general. And then also we have DevPost, which is where you often do your project submissions. So especially if you're in a digital hackathon, you'll definitely be submitting all your information there. But it's also another great resource if you want to find about any other hackathons that you want to do, in addition to MLH and Tech Together. And they also have company-sponsored hackathons. Like I've seen like a lot of Microsoft Azure hackathons, for example. So definitely highly recommend checking that out. And a second, you do not need coding experience at all. When I started my first hackathon, I didn't know anything. I had like maybe a little bit of design experience and layouts, but that was about it. So you can come from any background. You can come from business, engineering, science, like absolutely anything, and still be successful in a hackathon. So don't worry about not knowing how to code. That's why it's really awesome to see teams where everyone comes from completely different majors. I know I saw one recently where they came from completely different majors from all over and ended up using completely different skills that they learned throughout the weekend. So it's definitely a great learning opportunity to branch outside of your comfort zone and try something new. And then also it is as I mentioned, it's a great learning opportunity and career opportunity. There are tons of networking events, workshops to help build your resume, LinkedIn. So definitely recommend exploring and just trying so many things throughout the entire weekend. You can gain so much just from attending hackathons alone. And I've seen a lot of companies have like sponsor hackathons and look to hire hackers based on their projects and submissions. So definitely hackathons are the way to go. And also there are so different hackathons you can participate in include there are collegiate ones. So if you're at a university, there's oftentimes hackathons hosted at your university, or feel free to start your own. There's definitely a lot of resources through MLH if you are looking to do something like that. There are also, in addition to collegiate ones, there are high school hackathons, which are also open. I started mine in high school as well, and they are awesome. Yes, and of course we have MLH hosted ones. So there are hackathons every weekend. So you always have something to go to. And as far as different types of hackathons, so far with the pandemic, we've been transitioning to more in-person hackathons, but there are virtual and in-person hackathons, the virtual ones being over Discord, and then in-person usually hosted at like a university or a big center. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, there's also the company hosted ones like Microsoft, and there's so many resources to teach you skills, so you don't need to know everything. And especially with the resources that MLH provides, in addition, like with GitHub, there is a GitHub student developer pack, which I highly recommend checking out. If you're a student, you just verify your email, and there are so many resources to get you started on your project. I think in some of my hackathons, I ended up using GitHub Pages, which is a way if you're building a website, you can showcase your project over there. And it automatically deploys it there. So it's pretty simple and straightforward, and they have a lot of directions on how to get there. And I'll also be showing a couple of links later on that you can also check out. And yes, and I mentioned where you can find the hackathons, MLH, Tech Together, and DevPost. So second, team building. This is probably one of the most crucial components of a hackathon. You want to make sure that you are working in a team in a hackathon. That is pretty much the entire point. If you're working alone in a hackathon, it's not the same experience. I know I've made some of my best friends just by attending hackathons and meeting people from all over the world. So highly, highly recommend. When you are looking to find a team, there are usually team channels in the Discord, or if you're in person, they host team building events. And I think they do that over Zoom too, if you're in a virtual hackathon. So there's generally like breakout rooms where you meet other hackers, see what schools they're at, what they're studying, what they're looking to do for their project. And it's honestly just a great way to just meet other hackers and find a team that way. And definitely a great way to network and stay in touch with them long-term as well. So I totally recommend, do not be afraid to reach out. Like, just go for it. The worst that's going to happen is someone's going to be like, oh, I'm already on a team. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out and form a team. It's when you join a team, it's a great way for you to explore new frameworks and technologies. When I was on, I think one of my first couple of hackathons, I had basically no experience, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm here to learn. I would love to learn more about this. And I think it was like Google Cloud products or something like that. And they were like, yeah, sure, totally. Like, we will teach you, mentor you, and show you how to use the products. And then you can help us with our project and we can submit together. So definitely also another opportunity, shadow teams and see what they're doing in a hackathon, so you know what to do in a future hackathon, or just to kind of explore and see, is a hackathon for you? I know it definitely can seem intimidating, but don't let that stop you. It's one of the best experiences that you can possibly do. And also, I will show you in the next slide, I'll show you a sample team message that you can put in like a Discord channel if you're trying to meet other hackers. And then hopefully you can find a team from there. And also sometimes hackathons may have tracks. So they'll say maybe social good, environmental conscious, or sustainability. There's so many different tracks that hackathons might have, which are oftentimes just guidelines to help you get started. Because especially when like hackathons say, hey, build anything you want, it can be intimidating to be like, I have no idea where to start. So having tracks at hackathons are really a great way for you to kind of see which direction you want to go with your project, and then how you're going to present it from there. And so let's get on to our example message. So this is something that you might post in the team's Discord to meet other hackers and join a team. So it says, my name is Frankie the File Ferret, they, them, and I am an undergraduate at MLH University in New York. Keep in mind, this is not real. I just completely made this up. But as far as the content and how to format it, this is like one way you can do it. So this is my first hackathon, and I'm looking forward to learning and exploring backend development and Google Cloud products. I have experience with HTML, CSS, and design. I'm also interested in shadowing other teams to learn about hackathons. DM me if you'd like to join my team. So it's a great way to just introduce yourself, meet other hackers, and then find a team from there. And definitely don't be afraid to reach out. If you see other people's messages in the Teams channel, just DM them and be like, hey, I'm totally interested in joining your team. Here's what I do, blah, 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 blah. And I can contribute to this team by doing this, or I would just love to shadow and learn from you as well. So definitely lots of opportunities to find a team. Next up, we have ideation. So when you are trying to figure out what kind of project you should do, definitely a great resource is hack.mlh.io. So especially if you're doing an MLH hackathon, it shows you all the price categories that you can do, and how to get started with each of the resources. And as I mentioned with the hackathon, like with hackathons that have tracks, you can target your project towards either of them. And so oftentimes what I recommend is hosting brainstorming sessions with your team, trying to see like, hey, where do we want to go? What's some problems that we're facing? What are some solutions to those problems? And kind of going from there. Like sometimes it may sound like the craziest idea in the world, but just share it with your team, because sometimes those crazy ideas are how you get the best ideas. If you come up with like, I don't know, something absolutely like unimaginable, your teammate might have some way to build off of that. And then it kind of just branches off until you have a really awesome project. Now, with that, you also want to keep in mind the project scope. So making sure your project is not too large or too small. So that's kind of where you need to figure out, okay, how much do you think we can get done in those 48 hours? So if you're like a first-time hacker and you're trying to build a website and like have a whole game with it and everything, that might be a lot to accomplish in a weekend. So make sure you break it down into steps and say, hey, well, I think we can get this website done now, and let's get these components done for sure. That's going to be our main component. And if we have extra time, let's add these elements to our website. And if we have extra time after that, then we can go and expand it to the game. So that's where, especially like with price categories, sometimes they say, well, if you use, like for example, MLH has domain.com, or I've seen in other hackathons, they have like Microsoft if you deploy it, or Google Cloud if you deploy it and host it on a website, or like Heroku or something like that. And if you're a first-time hacker and you don't know what I'm talking about, don't even worry about it. It's just like an extra thing. So if you want to go that route and deploy your project and host it somewhere, that's definitely like, if you have extra time, that's where you would allocate that extra time. Focus on your main components first before adding on extra, because you want to make sure that you have a final project to present at the end of the day. So definitely check out this link if you want to find more resources. And if you're just getting started with new technologies and things like that, I recommend looking at the documentation for APIs, which are a great way to implement new technologies in your project and to learn a lot. So I know Google Cloud has so many different APIs. There's like the Google Maps API, Firebase, which is like, it's a way you can do like a login authentication if you want to make sure that your customer who's logging into your website is actually a customer. There is like a real-time database where you can store information in a giant database. So I mean, there are so many resources between Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, AWS, like there are so many things out there. So definitely take a look and kind of see what you want to do. And especially like there's other APIs, like even like Square and Stripe, they have different like payment APIs if you're looking to do something like that. Or if you're doing like a donations page, like that's where you could probably do something like that. So there's so many options out there. So definitely explore and kind of see what APIs you might want to include in your project. And they're definitely very easy to implement, especially if you've never done it before. In one of my first hackathons, I had no idea how to use any of the APIs, but slowly over time, I learned how to use them, especially by reading the documentation. They kind of list out exactly how to implement the API into your project. So definitely take a look at that if you have the opportunity to do so. And also that could be like an extra add-on if you don't have enough time as well. So something to keep in mind with your project scope and your timeline at the end of the weekend, because 48 to 36 hours is not always a ton of time. And it may seem like a lot at the beginning, and as you get to the end, you're like, oh shoot, I don't have a lot of time before I finish. So make sure that you get your main components done. I know I've said that a couple times, but it's really, really important. And also as far as ideation, yes, having brainstorming sessions, as I mentioned, and thinking about different like issues you may be facing in your life. It could be like the most simplest thing as like, oh my God, I'm always late to work and I'm trying my best, but it's been really, really hard. So then thinking away, hey, how can we solve that? How can we make it easier for you to get to work on time? So just kind of like slowly branching off based on just simple issues that you may be facing in your life, or even on a global scale, depending on what you want to do. And the thing is too, is that some hackathon projects end up turning into startups at the end of the day. So it's pretty cool to see like how, as you brainstorm and create these awesome ideas and then implement it at the end of the day and then continue it, them turning into something like established long-term. So definitely an awesome way for you to continue building your skills and eventually with career opportunities. Next, we have attending workshops. These are another great way for you to build your skills and to learn from industry experts and to really just explore like what a hackathon is about. If it's your first hackathon, highly recommend attending as many workshops as possible and learning in addition to working on your project. Because I think oftentimes I've learned so much from these workshops on the career side. So if you're looking to do like, if you need resume help, LinkedIn help, like there are so many resources for you in these workshops, and different hackathons have different workshops, but definitely a great way for you to improve your resume and get ready for the internship season. And especially with workshops too, they also have technical ones. So learning about Figma, computer vision. So different technical workshops may help you come up with project ideas and really figure out what you want to do with your project. So if you're stuck on the brainstorming side, you can always attend workshops and kind of see what are my options, where can I go from here? So highly recommend attending any workshops. And oftentimes there are industry experts who can teach you and about like different skills and maybe public speaking or how to present your project in a way that makes it look flashy, things like that. It makes a huge difference in the long term. So definitely recommend too, when you're at these workshops, ask questions, be curious. You want to maximize your experience as much as possible. So be curious and just dive into the hackathon as much as possible. So there's a lot of career resources and technical resources by attending workshops. And also definitely recommend networking with hackers, mentors, sponsors, and organizers. So especially after you attended these events, maybe send them a LinkedIn request and saying, hey, you know what, I really enjoyed your workshop and I would love to stay in touch. So a great way to stay in touch is you can host like coffee chats with them. So maybe even talking with them if they're an industry expert, talking for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just seeing if you can schedule a call to learn about their experiences in the industry and how you can reach that point in your career. So definitely recommend staying in touch. There have been a lot of ways to find like internship opportunities just through hackathons, especially since a lot of big companies do sponsor hackathons. So highly recommend staying involved in hackathons and building your network. And if you want to start there, you're welcome to send me a LinkedIn request if you want to start building your network. And in addition, there are so many ways for you to just set up coffee chats. You can even just send them like even an email. If you don't have a LinkedIn set up, that's all good. Just send like them an email and saying, hey, you know what? I have these questions about this industry. What do you recommend? Where do you see how can I get to where I want to be in the future? Because they definitely have a lot of experience in the industry, and I'm sure a lot of them would be happy to help you out on your own journey as well. So highly recommend building your network, setting up coffee chats, meeting with people. And this can be even hackers too. They've all have completely different experiences. If they've been to more hackathons than you, they can definitely share, oh, here's what I did at this hackathon, and I recommend doing this at this hackathon. So, different opportunities to just learn and build your network and to grow. So definitely recommend. Also, after you have networked and maximized your entire experience and it's Sunday and you're ready to submit your project, but you're not really close, just submit it anyways. No matter what, if you submit a project, it's going to make a huge difference. Everyone wants to see what kind of ideas and projects that you came up with, especially with judging. Sometimes it's also more about the idea. They want to see, well, did you just play it safe and kind of just do something simple, or did you stretch yourself? It's like you explored new technologies for the first time and wanted to grow. So this is a great way for you to showcase how much you've learned over the weekend and show where you wanted to go with your project idea. Because the thing is that the idea at the end of the day is most important. So I highly recommend submitting, and especially at an MLH event, if you do submit your project, you will get extra swag. So definitely submit a project, even if you're a first-time hacker. And so you're probably wondering, how do I submit a project? Where do I submit it? So this is where you can go to DevPost. Oftentimes, a lot of hackathons will host their project submission process there. And you can, what you'll end up doing is you'll create like a title, a tagline for your project, a logo if you have one, or don't, that's okay. And information about your project, what your project does, how did you build it, where did you stretch yourself, was this your first time using it, or have you been using it for decades, like whatever technology it is. So that's probably where you're going to be submitting your projects, and that's where you're going to be judged. And finally, after you've submitted your project, you definitely want to put it on your resume. Put it on your, not only putting it on your resume, but talk about it when you're in a behavioral interview. Oftentimes they'll ask you about, if you put it on your resume, they're going to ask you, hey, what did you do in this project? What did you learn? What are some challenges you might face? When you did the project. So it's a great way for you to show your experience and share your passion about hackathons with whoever the interviewer is. So definitely recommend. And if you do end up winning a hackathon, great. If you don't, that's totally fine. If you do, you can put your hackathon's achievements on LinkedIn and share it with other hackers. And if you didn't, that's okay. It's, at the end of the day, it's a learning experience, and you gained a project and a team of friends at the end of the day and started building your network. So that makes a huge difference. And if you want to stay involved in the hackathon community with your team, you honestly never know where they may, your team members might end up at the end of the day. So I highly recommend staying connected via LinkedIn, Discord, and just kind of going from there. Especially with the hackathon community, you might bump into so many people that you never even thought you would after one hackathon. I've attended one hackathon where I met this hacker, and then all of a sudden I go to a different event and I'm like, whoa, I remember you from this hackathon. Or even in Tech Together events, I have met so many hackers, and now they're also MLH coaches with me. So it's really cool to see how big the hackathon community is after you finish your first hackathon. So definitely recommend staying in touch and staying connected with the rest of the community. And after you finished your hackathon, you should celebrate. You have done so much over the past 48 to 36 hours between networking, meeting people, building a project, staying up late, having late night coding snacks, and attending workshops and making new friends. You deserve it. Celebrate your success and make sure that you enjoyed your experience. Don't stop yourself from exploring. Keep learning, keep going to more hackathons and exploring. So it really makes a huge difference if you just keep on going and keep on learning. And I promise you, you won't regret it at the end of the day. Hackathons are a great experience, and I highly recommend getting into it and exploring. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to ping me on Discord, and I'm happy to answer anything. Thank you so much for coming to this.